Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and this episode's going to be something a little bit different. I actually did this back around last year, close to around this time, and it actually got really good reception. So let's do it again. We have another all hip-hop episode, and let's get on the pulse. So before we go any further, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. Again, for these sort of all mono-genre episodes, hip-hop tends to get a little bit more traction, so hey, share it around regardless. That would be greatly appreciated. But now onto the matter at hand. We've got 8 projects on the docket. Let's get it started with, from the Koreatown Oddity, Is This For Real? So I was late to this guy. He was active in the underground throughout the 2010s, broke out in 2020 with a great chill autobiographical project, but apparently lost some folks with this one this year, clocking under 25 minutes, and I kinda get why. Now it's not bad. It's more a sound collage experience, drenched in smoky, off-kilter patchworks of samples, touches of 80s R&B, and a heavy open mic eagle influence in the melodies, dry humor, and stark meta-commentary on existential emptiness and commodified black performativity, both within black culture and America at large. It's also explicitly designed to provoke a lot of discomfort, referencing misophonia and with all the accent shifts and the free-flowing song structures, but ultimately finding an absurdist center for oneself. I mean, what else to say or prove? It's a tight, self-contained experiment. Cool listen. I'd give it a shot. From Saba, Few Good Things. I know I should like Saba more than I do. He's a good rapper with confessional, detail-rich storytelling, and I did like Care For Me. I don't really go back to it, few too many elements that don't quite work, but I wasn't about to skip this. So once again, very late to the punch. It's at least easier to revisit. It's melodic and better balanced in the brighter, shambling production, outside of some darker, minimalist trap cuts. And while Saba's vocal contortions once again feel hit and miss in the shadow of some of his influences, he's got enough guest stars and sharp flows that they're not that distracting. And I do like how this album feels more thoughtful and secure, while conscious of how success, not just money, shifts a lot of his priorities, especially tied to his family and his roots, amidst systems to trap and drag him underfoot, if not even his own mind. I do like this album more in snippets than as a whole, but you know what, it's still very good, worth hearing, check it out. From Ka, Languish Arts. So Ka dropped 2 albums in one day, both 10 tracks apiece and clocking under a half hour, so let's talk about the first one. And yeah, definitely a Ka album, so you get the methodical and layered bars, the dusty percussion, if any at all, the veteran stoicism, and this haunted past where against brighter, more melodic, but elegantly tragic samples, he sounds more despairing and confessional than ever. It bleeds painstaking honesty, where being truthful in his lane has led to some limited success and no fewer demons, especially when those old demons never brought as much success amidst a lot of corrupted and racist systems, but a man like him wouldn't compromise his values otherwise. And while this isn't far from Ka's usual material, and some of the sung hooks don't quite work, this might be the most I've enjoyed a Ka album since Honor Killed the Samurai. Great stuff, check it out. From Ka, Woeful Studies. Okay, second Ka album, which many have tagged as the more experimental, aggressive project that more tend to like, and I can see why, as it's a bit closer to his rougher, grimier material, but there's a different edge. His flows are faster, the aggressive darkness feels more palpable against some of the wheedling guitars, the samples feel more rooted in revolutionary action, rooted in black activism in Brownsville, and with all the more tangible context that, for as much as Ka recognizes the decay around his community, and his desire maybe to burn it all down, it's still his home. He'd prefer to teach, put in the work to build, fight fires. The odd thing though is that it does make the album flow a lot faster, and you become conscious of the runtime under a half hour, so the atmosphere doesn't quite coalesce for me up until the past couple of songs, which are excellent. But I gotta say, 2 for 2 here. check this out. From Shygirl, Nymph. Alright, following the critically acclaimed run of EPs, leaning on an oily but sharply focused jungle, UK garage, and hip house sound, we got a proper full-length debut, and it's a more lethargic, hyperpop and R&B accented project, with softer synths when they're not glassy or creaky or pulling more from house, some auto-tune singing alongside the faster rap flows, traces of gentle 2000s era electroacoustics, and rattling trap percussion or garage drum machines that are almost closer to Pink Pantheress. So, it's certainly varied, and Shygirl's hushed but explicit content highlights how sex is as much of a metaphor for emotional yearning and connection than just innuendo, which I think is a good emotive core for the project. But I do think the slower tempos, more restrained hooks, and certain tonal choices don't quite connect consistently for me. It's certainly more uneven than the last EP, but yeah, the best moments really did grow on me. Good stuff. Check it out. From Billy Woods, Church. This is the second time Billy Woods has put out 2 albums in a year, and while Terror Management didn't really click for me back in 2019, after the implacable jungle of Ethiops, this album is leaner, clocking just over a half hour and all produced by Messiah Music, taking Billy Woods' usual backdrop of hazy, shuffling samples and stripping it back even further, albeit keeping it appropriately smoked out and murky. And that works for a more direct, personal, and dare I even say quotable album, the underlying subtext being a necessary breakup of which he's very much not over, set amongst the end times where ossified, exploitative systems are juxtaposed with those which are prohibited but can really heal, an ode to all your forgotten dealers. And yet where full revolution might also not be enough to fully nourish the soul. These are familiar themes from Billy Woods by now, but real heartbreak does add some new pathos, incense of a different strain. Probably not my favorite of his, but absolutely worth hearing. From Open Mike Eagle, a tape called Component System with the Auto Reverse. This was one of my most hotly anticipated albums this year. Open Mike Eagle can really get there, and yet I didn't quite like this as much as I wanted to. I think it might be the production, taking spare, shambling grooves with creaking samples and warped vocals, but with less melodic foundation, so some of the subtler moments don't have that same stickiness. But that's also the point. It's intentionally off-kilter, pulling from old tape decks of fractured non-sequiturs, a brutally honest career and mental retrospective through a mosaic of absurd juxtapositions, wry, downbeat braggadociousness, and pathos straining to rebuild those connections. Inherently messy, but contextualizing a few years of self-destruction, loneliness, and tangible loss. So yeah, of course the songcraft is looser. Might work better in places than as a whole, but you know what, I'm still gonna call it great. Just not quite among his best. From Freddie Gibbs, Soul Sold Separately. What's tough about being a Freddie Gibbs fan since 2014 is, well, Pinata, Alfredo, Bandana, so the expensive major label breakthrough isn't quite enough to really impress me unless the guest and the content really step up. And yes, the rich, sensual samples and more of his singing kind of remind me of Shadow of a Doubt. Freddie Gibbs getting his Ja Rule on exposes how he's not quite as strong of a singer as he thinks he is. And some strong guest verses from Anderson .Paak, Raekwon, Pusha T, and even Scarface and DJ Paul help Freddie Gibbs ensconce himself in a penthouse of fast flows, cocaine, and angst-inflected bravado as he's finally broken through and he's settled a lot of old grievances. I mean, the run on the back half of this album is legit great, but a slow start, a lethargic pace, underpowered hooks, and a feel that I've heard all of this before just keep this from being among his best. I'll still say it's great, but only just. So yeah, thanks a lot for all you watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'll say it again, I'd be extremely grateful. We are so close to hitting 43,000. I'd like to get that before, hell, year-end lists coming around. That'd be really sweet. I'll do a live stream and we'll talk again. That's always fun. It's been a while since we've done one of those. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in helping support the channel beyond the merch, link down there below, or just want to get albums on my schedule, maybe support the channel, argue with me directly on my Discord server, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated, I understand, tough times, but the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching On the Pulse on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.